Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're just going to be playing with some new makeup. I am going to be playing with a lot of new Sigma products that I have yet to dive into and play with personally. I'm really excited to play with this palette. I did actually use this palette on a recent video that I filmed with my mom, which will either be up just before or after this video, somewhere near this video, but I haven't applied it on myself yet, and I'm really excited. It's the Warm Neutrals Volume 2 palette by Sigma. It's stunning, as you can tell, very warm, very neutral, a good variety of matte and shimmer shades in here. So I'm going to play with that. I have some Sigma eye primers that we're going to play with, blush palette by Sigma, and yeah, we're just going to have some fun playing with some new products. So let's go ahead and get started. Obviously, I have makeup on already. I just got back from dropping Kate off at preschool, so I am going to just kind of touch up what I have on and work from there. So what I already have on my skin right now is the Too Faced Peach Perfect Foundation on top of the Peach Perfect Primer. I have the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer underneath my eyes. I have set everything with the Laura Mercier Secret Brightening Powder, and then I have contoured with the Marc Jacobs Bronzer. So that is what we have to work with. So first I want to show you guys these eyeshadow base primer sticks from Sigma. I have quite a few here. I'm just going to swatch them all and then we'll decide which one we want to apply today. I haven't really given much thought to this look. I have kind of been just like go, go, go the last 2 weeks. So the first shade that we have is Bubbly, and it swatches like this, just a really pretty high shine champagne color, hence the name Bubbly, I assume. Then we have Sorbet, and let's see how Sorbet swatches. So Sorbet looks like it's going to be a little bit more pink. It also has some shimmer to it. It doesn't quite look as metallic as the Bubbly simply because the color is deeper and that Bubbly is brighter and lighter, so you really pick up off that metallic light reflection, but it does have shimmer. The Sorbet does have shimmer to it. Then we have Persuade. Let's see what Persuade swatches like. So Persuade looks like, okay, so Persuade is a slightly pink nude kind of skin tone color with no shimmer, so it's more of just a creamy matte finish. And next we have one more. Do we have one more? No, is that it? We just have the three. Oh, I thought we had more, but we just have three. We had a couple of eye pens that I was getting confused with the primer sticks. So I think I am going to use the matte shade. So I'm going to use this one here, which is the Persuade. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to run this across my eyelid. I'm going to start at my lash line and kind of build it into my crease. I'm going to stop right there and then I'm just going to take my finger and I'm going to shear this out. Now what I find is that usually like primer sticks like this, like cream sticks, what I have found in my experience is they tend to dry a little bit faster. So I think I'm going to go ahead and apply the eyeshadow before I go to the other eye and apply the primer. Okay, next I'm going to take the medium angled shading brush. It's the E70 by Sigma. You can see that it has a slight little slant to it, but it's a nice kind of big fluffy overall eyeshadow brush. And I'm going to dig it into the shade here, Humble. It's a matte, kind of like white eggshell color. And we're just going to apply that underneath the brow. And I'm going to go ahead and take that all over the lid just to kind of set that primer and give myself a nice even canvas to apply shadow to. Then next I'm going to take the Tapered Blending, the E40 brush, looks like this, and I'm going to apply this color here, Toasty, into my crease, which is stunning. This is such a beautiful transition color. Really nice and warm, kind of like a peanut butter shade, not too dark, not light, though just like the perfect level of depth, I think. For my skin tone, of course. Everyone's skin tone is different. So if you're lighter, this is definitely going to translate to be darker on you, and obviously if you're darker, this is going to translate to be lighter on you. But I'm just going to go back and forth into the crease. I really like this brush. This brush makes it so easy. It basically just gives you the perfect crease. Nice and defined, but still soft and diffused. You know, it's sometimes blending brushes can be too big and I shouldn't say too big and too fluffy, because all brushes serve a good purpose, right, for what they are. But sometimes blending brushes that are softer or bigger give you more of a sheer wash of color, and ones that are a little bit more dense and not quite as fluffy will give you more of a defined crease. I feel like this is kind of in between the road. Like you're going to get a nice definition from your crease, but it's still going to be soft. Okay, that brush really did make it so easy. Like I felt like I didn't have to work so hard to blend it out. Okay, next I'm going to go in with this shade right here. This is the shade Henna, and I'm going to kind of build that in my outer corner, and the brush that I'm using for that is more precise, flat. As you can see, it's got that pointed tip to it, so this is going to allow me a lot of control. This is the concealer brush, actually. It's the F70 concealer brush, but I'm going to use it for shadow. I am going to kind of tap it off though, so I don't get too much. And I'm basically just going to go in there and define that outer part of my crease a little bit more and then pull it down. This brush is kind of perfect for that, actually. Then I'm going to take the crease brush that I've used before, and I'm just going to go over that to soften it. Next, I'm going to go in and add a little bit of this shade here. This is the shade Russet, and you can see that it's got some sparkle to it. It's a really pretty reddish purple shade. You can see right there. You can see some pink flecks to it as the light hits it though. So we're going to take that and we're going to build that on the outer corner and the outer half of the eyelid. So for that, I'm going to take the same brush that I just used, that concealer brush, and we're going to tap off the excess and just kind of go in here. These colors are so pigmented, you guys. Look how much color comes off. So as you can see, I'm concentrating on the outer corner and then also in the outer half of the eye. I'm not just, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not just keeping this in the outer corner. This is going to about halfway over. I'm trying to mix up and diversify my typical looks. Someone made a comment recently that all my looks look the same, and it was a polite comment. It was actually really great feedback. I didn't take offense to it, but it kind of made me think, you know what, I think she's right. So I am going to just kind of mix this up a little bit and take that shade over a little bit further, halfway through. And now I'm just taking that crease brush and I'm just softening it a little bit. Now because this color is so dark, it's going to take a little bit of extra time. If you want it to be really nice and seamlessly blended, you're going to have to go and take your time with it. So I'm just going back and adding a little bit more, kind of pressing it out here just so I get a nice even application. You don't want it to be patchy, so you want to make sure that you really take your time adding this. I'm going to go back and softly blend that. So you don't want to blend that too much, because if you do, then you can just kind of shear it out and make it patchy. So I'm just going to blend it enough to where I feel like it's pretty even. I'm going to go and finish the eye, and then I'll come back and perfect everything. Next, I'm going to take this shade right here. It's called Beaming, and I'm going to load the eye shading E55 brush up with this. I want to show you what this brush looks like. So this brush is short and dense and has a pretty flat top, so this is a really great brush for the eyelid. If you have very small eyes, this might be a little bit too big for you, but we are going to see how it works on my eye shape, because I don't have really large eyes, but you know, they're not too small. So I'm going to go in and I'm just going to kind of pack this on the inner half of my eyelid. I'm really impressed with the quality of these shadows. Before today, I hadn't really played with Sigma powder products too much. You know, obviously I've been a fan of their brushes for a long time, and a few of their lip products I love, have made it into my favorites, but I've never owned a shadow palette by Sigma, and I gotta say the color payoff is really nice. So that's got quite a bit of shimmer, quite a bit of color. Now I'm going to go back and perfect everything. I feel like I want that transition from the lighter to the darker to be a little bit more seamless. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that shade that we used, the second shade that we used right here, Henna. I'm going to take a little bit of that on my concealer soft brush, and I'm going to take a little bit of the purple shade that we used there. I'm going to tap it off, and we're just going to kind of softly go over that. The reason that I didn't just grab the purple, which is what I had laid there initially, is because the contrast between this purple and this lighter color right here, clearly there's a huge contrast. Very light and shimmery, very dark. And since these two colors are the ones that blend together, it's almost too much of a contrast. So adding this shade right here that's kind of slightly lighter than the darkest one, it's just going to make that transition be a little bit more seamless, if that makes sense. I try and explain things really detailed, you guys. I hope it's not too much detail, you know what I mean? Sometimes I feel like I can explain things so much that it confuses people, but I hope that it doesn't. So then I'm just going to go right over that outer half and then into the crease a little bit. Now this is definitely a slightly more complex look than I normally do on my channel, and it is taking me a little bit more time, but that's just kind of part of it, you know? Even though it takes more time, hopefully I'm explaining it in a way that it makes it still easy and simple. Okay, next I want to brighten the brow highlight up, because I feel like I don't know, it's not as bright as I want. So I'm going to take the large shader brush, this is the E60 by Sigma, and I'm going to go back and load up that shade Humble right here, and we are just going to apply that right underneath my brow. Even though I'm applying the same color that I already have, because this brush is more dense than the first brush I used, you're going to see more color payoff than before. Same product, only difference is the brush. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to go ahead and line my eyes. And for that, I'm using this Sigma liquid eyeliner pen in the shade Wicked, which is pretty much black. This is what it looks like. This is what the felt tip looks like. This is how it goes on. Okay, this is softer. I've had this in the past, and I remember the tip being a little bit more stiff, but let's see how this works. Sorry, I hope I'm making sure that you guys can see this. So I like to lay the pen on its side to create that line. Okay, so this tip is slightly stiffer than other pens that I've used. It's not as flexible, but there's a lot of pigment to this liner, so you don't have to press hard and you're going to get a really intense black line. But when you get out here to the flick, you want to make sure that you have very, very light pressure because this is a little bit more stiff. It's not as flexible. You don't want to push too hard because then it's going to be too thick. Does that make sense? So just be very, very light-handed, especially as you get out to the outer corner. Okay, things are clearly uneven. Let me go ahead and do the other side and I'll be right back. All right, we're back. So I have obviously finished the other eye. I've added an inner rim brightener in my waterline, and then clearly I've put some lipstick on. This lipstick, you guys, is by Too Faced. It's called Make Me Blush. I love this color. Is that not so pretty? And I have touched on my foundation a little bit. I was getting a little bit shiny there. So I want to finish my lower lash line, add some blush, and then we will be done. So for my lower lash line, I'm going to take one of the eyeshadow primer sticks, and I'm going to run that on my lower lash line first, and then we're going to use shadow to create my lower lash line. So I'm using the shade Bubbly, which is that really shimmery champagne color. And I'm just going to run that pretty thick across my lower lash line. Since it's light, it's okay that it's a little bit thicker. Then I'm going to take the pencil brush by Sigma. It's actually called the pencil brush, and it's the E30, so it just looks like a nice little pencil tip. So I'm going to go in here first with the shade Toasty, which is the color we used in our crease, and I'm going to run that directly on top of that primer, and it's really not changing anything, so I'm going to go back in with Henna, which is the darker kind of reddish brown, and we're going to run that across. Okay, yeah, that's what we need. And I'm just going to run that right across that primer, stopping about 2/3 of the way over. I'm not taking this dark color all the way to the inner corner, but I'm taking it a little bit further than the center, which is kind of where I typically stop with a darker color. So we're just going to run that right across. Then I'm going to take that shade Russet, which is the purple, and we're going to concentrate this just on the very outer corner. So we're almost kind of creating the same effect as far as light to dark with the same shadows that we used on the eyelid. I'm going to apply some mascara. Mascara really built up my lower lash line. That is the mascara by Miraness. It is the Secret Weapon 24-Hour Mascara. So I'm going to kind of let that dry for a second, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to do the other eye. This color Russet just came to me. It reminds me of Sketch by MAC with a little bit more shimmer than Sketch. Sketch used to be one of my all-time favorite go-to eyeshadows. That one and Embark, which is really similar but more on the brown side than the purple side. Those two shades by MAC I feel like are kind of like staples, you know? Just really, really good shadows to have. Okay, so for blush, I'm going to use this blush palette. Nice, pretty, and reflective. It's the Cheek palette. And it comes with 5 blush shades, and then this shade here that is pretty much like a skin tone color. Does this have any shimmer to it? So I'm going to swatch this color here. It looks kind of like skin tone, but ooh, it's actually a really pretty highlight, so it's right there. This would be a really pretty highlight under the eyes. I'm going to dust a little bit of that in the center of my face and see how it looks. Okay, there is a little bit of fallout here, but I don't mind that. A lot of really quality shadows that I like tend to have that. They're real dusty. These tend to be a little bit dusty, but I don't mind it at all. Okay, and for my cheeks, I think I'm going to go in with this shade right here. It's called Pinky, and it's a matte, kind of like mid-tone rosy pink shade with a little bit of peach to it. And I'm going to use the large angled contour brush. This is the F40. I love this brush. And I'm just going to, ooh, that has a lot of color. I kind of assume these would because they look really pigmented. Okay, that's a little bit more than I want. So I'm going to take the large powder brush and I'm just going to go over that to sheer it out. When in doubt, blend it out. Okay, so I'm going to apply this with a different brush. I'm going to use the Duo Fiber F50 brush because this brush is not as dense. It's a lot more loose on top than the large angled contour, which is what I just used. So it's going to pick up less product. So I'm going to see if this actually applies the blush in a way that I want. Not so much. Okay, it does. It applies a lighter application. I still feel like I need to kind of go back though and soften it just because I have so much going on the eyes. I don't want the cheeks to be that bright too, you know? Kind of picked the eyes to focus on and keep everything else pretty soft. I just want a nice natural flush on the cheeks, but I don't want it to look like, hey, look at that blush. Hey, look at that eyeshadow. All right, and that is the complete look. I hope you guys enjoy it. I think it's really pretty. It's definitely a little bit different than I typically do on this channel, I think, right? What do you guys think? Definitely more glamorous and dramatic than I normally do. And I also think the color placement is different too. I definitely took the darker more over on the lid than I typically do. Usually I leave that in the outer corner and crease. But yeah, I really like the way this turned out. I am ready to go for the day. I got a really glamorous day of swim lessons and a football game that my daughter is actually cheering at. But I am ready to go. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Leave all your questions and comments down for me below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!